Where'd everybody go? Paramahansa Paracharya also such Vaya Chanana Navantavakijaya, Iskan Found Charya, Shilabhavad Kijaya, Anantakoti, Vaishnav Vrimnikijaya, Namacharya, Shlakila Sthapur Kijaya, Remse, Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Giradha, Shivasvi Gaur Bhakta Vrimnikijaya, Shri Krishna. Gopi Gopinath, Sayam Kunda, Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Kijaya, Vrindavanam Kijaya, Maturdam Kijaya, Jagatasami Kijaya, Yamunamari Kijaya, Shimati Vlasadeva Kijaya, Samita Bhakta Vrinda Kijaya, Go Premananda. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru. Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Pule, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharni, Nivasesa Srinivadi Paschati Deshjani. So we are reading from the Bhagavatam where? Okay, let me get that. So we're reading from, we go back to Canto 1. Oh, it's Hanuman Jayanti today. Okay. Okay, so let me just mark this for the next day. We chant Hanuman. All right, whatever you like. So so normally we're reading Canto 1 what? Chapter what? Chapter 2, what verse? Third verse. Okay. Okay, so today is Hanuman Jayanti, which means the appearance of Hanuman. So, Om Ganai. Timirandasha Gananjana Shnakaya Chakshur Medinam Yena Tasmai Shigure Namaha. Tomorrow is also a festival day. Did you know that? No? Tomorrow is the appearance of Radhakund. It's the Chaitra Purnima, which Radhakund appeared. So anyway, someone's giving us some nice music back there. Thank you. So now, first we're going to talk about Hanuman before we go on to the Bhagavatam. Of course. Okay, so here's the story about Hanuman, the great associate and servant of Lord Ram. Hanuman is actually a jiva soul. I want to make that very clear to all of you. Even though he is an anga of Lord Shiva, he's also a jiva soul. He's an eternally liberated associate of Lord Ram. And he has many different expansions. But the whole concept that you find in the Pancha Mukha Hanuman is a concoction. It's not real. Hanuman is not God. He is a servant of God. And we worship him as a servant of God. If you worship him as God, you are committing the second offense on chanting the Lord's holy names. So we worship him as a servant of God. He's always there at Ram's feet, Lord Ram's feet. So, here's the story of his appearance. Once upon a time, we had Lord Shiva and Parvati. Of course, Parvati is the consort of Lord Shiva. And they were engaging in romantic affairs. And sometimes when Lord Shiva and Parvati would engage in romantic affairs, they would take different forms. So in this particular case, they took the form similar to the monkeys. And so Parvati got pregnant. Now, we understand that sometimes some of the children of Lord Shiva and Parvati are quite unusual, like Ganeshji. Well, that's due to Lord Shiva just cutting off his head and putting an elephant's head there. So in any case, Parvati said to Lord Shiva, I do not want to have a son who's like a monkey. And so they called for Vayu. Vayu, of course, is the wind god. And Vayu was asked to do what they call nowadays an embryo transplant. You've heard of that before? An embryo transplant means you take the embryo out of someone's womb, put it in someone else's womb, or you take it out of a test tube. Nowadays, of course, they have test tube babies, right? You understand? They do the fertilization inside some sort of laboratory. Anyway, so Vayu was asked to take this embryo and transport it and put it in the womb of Anjani, who was to be Hanuman's mother. Now, Anjani was not just an ordinary monkey. She was previously the servant, not as a monkey, but as a demi-goddess. So she was previously the servant of Brihaspati. And she was serving Brihaspati, and one day she happened to see some Gandharvas engage in romantic affairs, and she became agitated, and she basically started to kiss Brihaspati. And Brihaspati said, you're like a monkey, so you should become a monkey. And she said, oh, please forgive me. And he said, all right, as soon as you have a monkey son, or Kim Purusha son, because Hanuman is actually Kim Purusha, it's not exactly a monkey, then you will actually come back here. So you see, sometimes even in the heavenly planets, it's a heavy reaction for feeling lusty like that. Even in the case, another story, not related to the Hanuman story, even the case of Renuka, who was Parshuram's mother, and Renuka also was attracted to some Gandharvas and became agitated like that. And Parshuram's father, Jamadagni, he got very angry at his wife, and he said to his sons, kill your mother. Don't do that. But anyway, kill your mother. And so the son said, no, Dad, we're not going to kill our mother. So he got very, very angry, even at his sons. And he said to one of his sons, whose name was Parishuram, you should kill all your brothers and your mother. So Parishuram took his axe and he chopped off the head, oh my God, of his mother and his brothers. So, but it's not that he was cruel or following the orders of his father without intelligence, because he understood that if he pleased his father could bring them all back to life. So he said to his father afterwards, after his father said, I'm very pleased that you've carried out my orders. He said, I'll give you a benediction. And Parishuram said, I want the benediction that they're all brought back to life. And they don't remember anything that happened. And so they brought back to life. So anyway, getting back to that point of Anjani, saying, well, she wasn't killed, but she was cursed to take birth as a monkey. So, what happens is that Vayu, he implants the embryo in the womb of Anjani, and of course Anjani is married to Kesari, that's her husband, and she gives birth to this beautiful little powerful boy. And this powerful boy sees his mother disappearing right after he's born. And so he said, because she's going back to the heavenly planets. That was the benediction she got after the curse. So he says, where are you going, Mom? And she says, I'm going away. I'm leaving. And he says, but how am I supposed to eat? And so she says, pick something that's round and orange, like an orange fruit like that. And so he didn't know too much at that time, so he looked up in the sky and he saw the sun was there. And he just thought, oh, delicious. So he had all the powers, even from his very birth. I mean, later on, he forgot his powers. But even from his very birth, or appearance, he had all these different powers. So he flew up into the sky and opened his mouth wider and wider and wider as if to engulf the sun. At the same time, there was someone else who was running around trying to cover the sun. His name was Rahu. It was Rahu, the eclipse. And just like recently, of course, you didn't have the eclipse here, but in other places in the world, there was a major eclipse. Eclipses generally foretell some inauspicious thing is going to happen. And obviously, we can see right now in the world that a lot of inauspicious things are happening. There's a lot of wars, there's a lot of people starving, people are fighting each other for no reason whatsoever. So things could get a lot worse. There could be a major war. Of course, here in Fiji, you are pretty safe. There's no death, disease, and old age here, right? You're agreeing with that? That's stupid. You're not safe here in Fiji because this is the material world. Dukkhalim Shashvata. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshana Darshana. So, anyway, Rahu was going after the sun. And he saw Hanuman was doing basically the same thing. And so he went to Indra. It's an interesting story that even though Rahu is a demon, he's an asura, somehow or other he has a certain right, he's given a certain right, an adhikar. So he goes to Indra and he says, look, this big monkey is trying to eat my food or what is allotted to me. So Indra comes and he tries to get rid of Hanuman. And finally he fires his Vajra. And Vajra, of course, is the thunderbolt of Indra. And Hanuman falls to the ground and his jaw is damaged. And he's apparently dead. Not dead, but apparently he's dead. Apparently he's left his body. And therefore, Vayu, his father, foster father, the one who transported the embryo, gets very upset. And Vayu is in charge of the wind. He's the wind god. So he stops the wind in all the universe. Not just ordinary wind, but in everyone's body. There's these different life airs, apana, prana, like a samana, and these life airs, which are very subtle. It's not like you see the fan up there blowing air. There's much more subtle energy that's functioning within the body. So these life airs, they actually keep everything going. So without these life airs functioning, or any of the areas in the universe functioning, then there's no functioning of anything. So everybody is just like completely paralyzed. So all the demigods go to find out what's happening, and they give the benediction that Hanuman can come back to consciousness. So Hanuman comes back to consciousness, and at the same time he's given all these different blessings from the demigods. They're bringing him different gifts, blessings, of great power and everything like that. So he comes back, and you have little Hanuman at this particular point. So as he grows up, He's quite, as they say, cheeky. In other words, he's playing all sorts of tricks on the sages. Even there's some description that he would lock the sages' doors or put wild animals outside of the doors of the sages, and then they'd come out of their house in the morning just to go to the washroom, toilet, and there'd be this like tiger and elephant right outside their room. And so eventually they get so upset with him, they curse him to forget about his powers. But before that, he got his after that, sorry. He gets his education. This is actually a very important point. That he got his education from Surya. For those of you who don't know, Surya is the sun god. And so he goes to Surya, and he says to Surya, "Can I become your disciple?" And Surya said, "Yes, but there's a problem, because I'm always moving." Imagine if you had a guru who was always just like going very, very fast through the outer space. I'm always moving, so how are you going to be my disciple? He said, "That's all right, I can move backwards." So Hanuman is sort of flying backwards, and Surya is going forwards, and he's getting all these nice instructions. And finally, when the education is complete, Hanuman says to Surya, "What sort of Guru Dakshin do you want?" This is actually the standard. Guru Dakshin. Actually, you're supposed to give the Guru whatever Dakshin he asks for, not that you choose. Nowadays, the disciple just pulls out a $5 bill, especially here in Fiji. Looks like a big stack of envelopes, but it's just like, altogether it's about $25. So, just like the story of Ekalavya, the Guru asked for the thumb, isn't it? Dronacharya asked for Ekalavya's thumb, and he had to do that. So you have to be ready when you take initiation, just to give whatever the Guru asks for. Little dangerous, take initiation. So anyway, so Surya, when asked by Hanuman, what Guru Dakshin do you want? He said, "I want you to become the servant of Sugriva." This is why Hanuman is actually always serving Sugriva, because this involves the whole story about the birth of Sugriva, which I can tell right now anyway. You got me started on this whole Ramayana stories. So the birth of Sugriva is very interesting, and also Pali, because both of them are sons of, well, first of all, Aruna or Aruni, and also sons of Indra and Surya, respectively. So how did that happen? Very interesting. Once upon a time, and this is also there in the Markandeya Purana, there was the stopping of the sun. And the reason the sun was stopped was that there was this very, very chaste lady who was serving her husband. Her husband had leprosy, and this chaste lady had actually gone to serve another lady so that her husband could actually associate with this other lady. But then, when her husband understood her great chastity, he gave up his desire. And on the way back, he inadvertently touched Markandeya Rishi. And when he touched Markandeya Rishi said, "I curse you that you will die before the rising of the sun the next day." And this chaste lady said, "The sun's not going to rise." That shows the power of a chaste lady. Just like recently we heard about Sita Devi's chastity, and we also told the story of Savitri and Satyavan, and so many other stories are there. So men have to be very careful about offending the ladies. Very careful. If you are not careful, your whole life is finished. Don't think you're any better. Ladies should be considered like Lakshmis. If you treat the ladies nicely, you always have enough money. It's true. We're not just making this up. So anyway, getting back to the point. So this lady stopped the rising of the sun. So the sun basically had a vacation for the first time. Normally the sun doesn't get time off with pay. And so the sun has his chariot driver known as Aruna. Aruna is the son of Vinata. Anyway, and also the son of Kashyapa. There's a whole other story about that. And Aruna is the brother of Garuda, Krishna's bird carrier. Interesting. Did you know this? No. See, you learned something new. So, so Aruna is given time off too. So Aruna is told by the sun god, just come back after, we get our employment back. So in the meantime, you can go, take a vacation too. So Aruna, he decides to go to see Indra's palace and to see some dancing girls at Indra's palace. And so when he goes to see the dancing girls at Indra's palace, they don't let him in because he's not really that qualified to see the dancing performance. It's interesting. And so he thinks, how can I get in? So he transforms himself into a Runi. There's something modern for you, a gender change, which you don't do in Fiji, I don't think. Not yet. Not yet, right? Everywhere else, we do it. So he did a gender change, and he became a Runi. And he was she was quite beautiful. So she's able to go in and see the dancing performance, but when she gets in to see the dancing performance, Indra sees her, and Indra says, stop the performance. I want to talk to this girl. And he says, gets alone with the girl and says, all right, whatever, hello, whatever people say in such circumstances. And Aruni says, you don't understand, I'm actually a man. And Indra says, I don't care. And as a result, Bali is born. Because try to understand that in the heavenly planets, children are born immediately. And there's no children. They're adults. So, you could say that they're children, but they're not children. They're born as adults. And that's nice because there's no crying, no babies, no cute little babies there in the heavenly planets. So anyway, so Aruna, who's now the male again, he goes back to the sun god. The sun god is waiting because it's time to start. And the sun god says to Aruna, what took you so long? And he says to the sun god, you don't want to know. And when someone says that to you, then you definitely want to know. Or it's a secret. If someone says it's a secret, he goes, drives you crazy. So you don't want to know. So eventually, he gets the information out, and the sun god says, I'd like to see that form. And Aruna says, no, you don't want to see the form. So the sun god insists, and Aruna transforms himself into Aruni, and I guess you could understand what happens at this point, is that Sugriva is born. So that's the mystery of Sugriva and Bali's birth, which is an interesting story. So Hanuman, he always has to serve Sugriva, because that's the Guru Dakshina. So we know that Sugriva was kicked out of Kishkinda because of the misunderstanding with Bali, right? And they were living at Mount Rishimukh, and Hanuman was always there. Hanuman, it's described, was very expert with all the Vedic literatures, and he could also transform himself to look like whatever he wanted to look like. In addition, when he was blessed by all the demigods, he was given an amulet or a sort of a necklace that nobody would be able to see except for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ram. So he had this necklace. So fast forward, they're in Kishkinda, and the monkeys are making sure that nobody comes to attack. Of course, Bali could not come, and all of Bali's associates because fell on them close. So anyway, but they were looking to see if someone was coming. One day they spied these two young men by the shore of the Lake Pampa. And Ram was actually, it's described in the Ramayana that Lord Ram was actually crying at that point. This is Valmiki Ramayana. Why was he crying? Because it was like springtime, and there were favorable breezes, and it was a very romantic situation, and he was remembering Sita Devi. And Lakshman was always pacifying him. Just have determination, have determination. So then, so the monkeys, they spied these two young men, Ram and Lakshman, and Hanuman was sent down to find out. And Hanuman took the form of a Brahmin, like a Vedic Brahmin, and he was reciting all these different mantras and everything like that. And Lord Ram was sort of like playing with him because he knew that was Hanuman. And finally, he looks at this bracelet, amulet, or necklace, and he says, "Oh, what's that necklace?" And Hanuman realizes, "Oh, that's my Lord Ram." And so Hanuman resumes his original form. He assumes his original form, and he describes what's happening, and then he takes Ram and Lakshman on his back up to the top of Mount Rishimukh, and they meet with Sugriva, and they make this friendship deal with Sugriva. So, okay. I don't know if I should tell the whole story of the Ramayana in this class. But anyway, so they meet with Sugriva, and they make the deal to look for Sita Devi. And the monkeys reveal, of course, that Sita Devi had passed overhead, being carried by Ravan. It's an interesting story in the Valmiki Ramayana that Ravan was carrying Sita Devi on his own power because his chariot that he came to kidnap Sita Devi in was actually destroyed by Jatayu. The chariot that he used to kidnap Sita Devi had horses, the horses weren't horses. They were like donkeys with human heads on them. Yuck. And so Jatayu actually decapitated all of them, cut all their heads off. And so, so Ravan had to fly back on his own power, holding Sita Devi, and Sita Devi dropped all these jewels, and the monkeys presented the jewels, and Ram was able to identify the jewels as Sita Devi's. So it was described that they would look for Sita Devi in different directions. But it happened to be the rainy season, and so Hanuman remained with Sugriva, but in the meantime, Sugriva, who had, at that time, his brother had been dead for some time. So Sugriva was getting drunk all the time with Tara and Ruma. And so he didn't realize it was the end of the rainy season because he was so drunken. And then Ram sent Lakshman, and Lakshman was threatening all the residents of Kishkinda, and finally Hanuman suggested that Tara go out and pacify Lakshman. And Tara was actually drunk, but Lakshman was pacified, and so then they agreed to send everybody to different quarters. So Hanuman and many of the monkeys were sent to the south, other monkeys were sent to the east and the west and the north. Anyway, and finally they get to the shore of the ocean. I'm not going to tell the whole story. They get to the shore of the Southern Ocean, and they meet with Sampati, and Sampati tells them where Sita Devi actually is. Another interesting thing is, in the Ramayana, it's described that Lanka is actually like 800 miles away from where they were in the shore of the ocean. And so many scholars say that the present Lanka or Sri Lanka could not have been the actual Lanka. Some people say it was the Maldives. I don't know if you know where the Maldives are. They're different islands. So in any case, so they're on the shore of the ocean. Hanuman's forgotten his powers, and they want to go and see Sita and report back to Ram. And nobody has the power to jump over the ocean. And so finally they remind Hanuman. Hanuman jumps over the ocean. And while he's jumping over the ocean, there's this surasa, another test that he endures. He goes, and then he finds Sita Devi. And he takes a very, very small form in the Ashok Grove. And he starts chanting Ram's name. And Sita Devi looks and she sees this monkey and she thinks it's actually Ravana in a different form. Finally, you want the whole Ramayana story? Phew, wasn't prepared for this one. All right, so finally, she accepts because Hanuman produces the ring, and she accepts that it's actually a servant of Ram. And Hanuman offers to take her back, and she says to Hanuman, I would never touch another male voluntarily. Plus, if you were to take me back, you'd be fighting off the Rakshasas at the same time, and I might slip from your back and then fall onto the ground and die. So it's decided that Hanuman will actually test the forces of the Rakshasas. So he starts to tear up all the trees and eat all the bananas and fruit and everything like that. And the Rakshasas send, some of Ravana's sons and other personalities are sent, and Hanuman kills them all. Finally, Hanuman is captured by Indrajit with the ropes of Brahma. And, of course, he got the benediction from Brahma that if ever he was captured by the ropes, as soon as they would take the ropes away, he would actually be free. So for a short time, he don't be captured. So he allows himself to be captured. So he's taken in front of Ravan, and while he's taken in front of Ravan, he tries to preach to Ravan, and Ravan gets very, very angry with him. Ravan wants to kill him, but Vibhishan intercedes, and Vibhishan says it's not appropriate to kill an envoy because he just came just to tell us something. We're the ones who attacked him. And so then it's decided to put Hanuman's tail on fire. Hanuman has his tail put on fire. Sita at the same time is praying to Agni to protect Hanuman so he won't feel the fire, so he doesn't feel the fire, and he sets all of Lanka on fire. And do you want to hear the whole thing? Oh my God. And so then he flies back after setting Lanka on fire and tells everybody about what happened, and he and the monkeys go and they tell Ram, and then they proceed to the south again to attack Lanka. Anyway, so I don't know what much more of the story to tell. I mean, he's very instrumental in building the bridge. He's very instrumental in killing many, many of the Rakshasas. And anyway, after they get back to Ayodhya, he always remains at the feet of Ram. And then, of course, when Ram decides to leave this material world and go back to the spiritual world by entering into the Sarayu River, Hanuman is told to stay in this world as long as Ram's glories are being chanted. So Hanuman remains in Kim Purusha Loka, where he's always chanting the glories of Lord Ram, and he never leaves Kim Purusha Loka unless there's some service to Ram or service to Ram's devotees. There's an interesting story in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita about this particular point. In this story in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Krishna is in Dwarka, and Krishna wants to see Hanuman. And in order to see Hanuman, he sends Garuda to carry the message to bring Hanuman back. So Garuda flies to Kim Purusha Loka, tells Hanuman, I want that Krishna wants to see you. And Hanuman refuses. He says, I'm not going unless Lord Ram asks me to come. Such is his chastity, even though he knows Ram and Krishna are the same. So Garuda tries to take him forcibly back, and Hanuman sort of twitches his tail and sends Garuda back, flying through the air all the way back to Dwarka to teach Garuda a lesson. Then Krishna says to Rukmini, let's take the form of Sita and Ram. So they take the forms of Sita and Ram, because Sita and Ram and Radha and Krishna, or Krishna and Rukmini, they're the same persons, Advaita, Chuta, Nadir, Anantarupa, Madhyam, Purana, Purisham, Navayovanam Cha, but just acting in different capacities according to different circumstances. Advaita, there's no difference between Ram and Krishna. The only difference is the difference in Leela, not the difference in identity, or what we call ontological position. So, anyway, they take the form or they appear as Rama and Sita and send Garuda back, and Hanuman comes back and he worships them. And this is the chastity of Hanuman. So those of us today who are devotees of Lord Ram can have the power of Hanuman by remaining chaste to Lord Ram and chaste to our spiritual master. Like Hanuman is chaste to his Ishta Devata, who is Lord Ram. In the same way, we should always be chaste. And of course, Sita Devi too. These are important lessons for us. So, oh my God, it's almost the whole time. So any questions about Hanuman or Lord Ram or the Ramayana? You know, all the information I'm giving you is coming from the Valmiki Ramayana. If you're interested in the Valmiki Ramayana, there's a very nice edition from the Gita Press, which is both in English and in Hindi. They have a nice Hindi translation and a nice English translation, along with the original Sanskrit. So, the Ramayana is the world's largest epic poem. There is no longer poem than the Valmiki Ramayana. So, any questions or comments? Questions? No? Yeah. Yeah.
He couldn't do it at one point in time, and he was discouraged. He was thinking what to do next. So similarly, something happens in our life when we are trying to enter more for devotion. And then the same scenario will come in. We don't feel like we want to do it. We feel so like low self-esteem. So in this situation, like how Hanuman changed his mood and how we present.
Okay, so here's a story about Hanuman going to Lanka, looking for Sita Devi. Actually, the first thing, I mean, there's other stories, like when Hanuman tried to enter Lanka, he made himself very small, and then there was this lady, Lankini, who was actually a demigoddess who was cursed to become like an ogress. I mean, it's an ugly lady. So she tried to stop Hanuman. She saw Hanuman, who was very, very, very tiny, and Hanuman basically punched her in the face. And she understood that it was predicted that when a monkey would attack her, she would go back to the heavenly planets, and then Lanka would actually be conquered at that particular point. So then Hanuman enters Lanka and he flies all around. One of the first places he goes to is the palace of Ravan. And in this palace of Ravan, as described in the Valmiki Ramayana, there's all these drunk... Oops, sorry. Okay. Enough of that story. Okay. Jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopal Bihari.
Jai Jai
His Divine Grace Savaya Chanana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Marshala Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.